I'm very happy to be joined today by Alexandra Elliott and Ed Fitzgerald from the Quincy Historical Society. Ed is the executive director at the Quincy Historical Society, and Alexandra is both of them are going to be presenting a program with us on March 22nd. And the program we are very happy to have, it is Beyond Abigail. It's Notable Women of Quincy Beyond Abigail, and the Hunt to Tell Their Stories. Ed, I'm going to start with you if you want to just give us a little background information on you and the Quincy Historical Society and tell us how you got involved in all of this.
Well, Quincy Historical Society has been around for a while. We were founded in 1893. Founding president was Charles Francis Adams, Jr. So we've been part of the Quincy community for a long time, and we have enjoyed doing a couple of programs in this series with the Thomas Crane. Found it very kind of fun and reaching out, and we thought, particularly I think Alexandra can speak more to this, but we thought it would be kind of appropriate to do something during Women's History Month to look at Quincy women of some note who are not Abigail Adams. And maybe Alexandra can explain the how and why of all that.
And Alexandra, how did you get involved in this program?
So in particular with this program, I'm the curator at Quincy Historical Society. So one of the things, like Ed said, we wanted to do is talk about some of the notable Quincy women in history. And yeah, Abigail tends to get most of the attention, and rightly so. She's a wonderful lady and very influential, and I certainly love talking about her. We've done programs about her in the past, and that's always been very fun. But there's also quite a lot of other really interesting and engaging women other than Abigail that we did want to shed some more light on and give a little bit of attention to. There's quite a few of them, actually, that we either people may have heard of before and might not know as much about, or there's quite a few that are really just coming to light and are becoming more well-known, and we're just starting to tell their stories.
Well, and I know we planned on doing this program during Women's History Month.
Yes.
But where specifically did the idea for this program come from? Was there anything that sort of inspired you to highlight these other women of the city of Quincy?
Well, it was kind of born out of a blog post that I did for the Historical Society over the summer. So this past summer, August 2020, we observed the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment. So during the summer, I had been doing some research into the suffrage history in Quincy and was kind of having a bit of a hard time piecing it all together. So that is kind of a situation of we don't know more than we know. And so I ended up writing a blog post about that. And in that blog post, I was able to start compiling some biographies of significant women involved in the suffrage movement from Quincy. And so that's kind of where this program started, because we don't quite have enough information yet to do a full program about the suffrage history in Quincy. We thought that it would be a good idea to potentially, start the process of getting people more familiar with some of the less well-known names. Yeah,
I think it's been kind of a cumulative process over the last 2 or 3 years. In 2018, we did which was our 125th anniversary. For that, we did a book of days, which was kind of a compendium of something interesting about each day of the year that was Quincy related. And in that, we began uncovering, women that were really doing remarkable things that we had not known about before and not known enough about before. And then, as Alexandra says, the suffrage centennial and the attempt to uncover there. And then gradually, it just became more and more interesting women began to appear on our screen. So this was sort of kind of a logical thing to do.
Now that brings me to the next question. How did you determine, going through all of your research, which women to highlight and which women to not highlight?
So this is going to be an ongoing process. We have a list of quite a few women at this point that, we're not going to, unfortunately, to keep it in like a good, reasonable length program, instead of keeping you until, the following Saturday after the program or something, we're having to cut down a little bit. And we're still not, we definitely do not have a finalized list yet. But we do have a couple people that we know we are going to talk about. And likewise, we're having those discussions about, who would it maybe be? Well, we're not quite sure that we have enough information about them to really say anything interesting. Or potentially, we might not want to talk about people of sort of like, for example, current politicians. We don't necessarily, we have a rule about not talking about current politicians in general, and so we might not do that as well.
Well, is it possible to give us a little sneak peek of some of the women that you are going to be discussing during the presentation?
We definitely know a few, yes, so we can talk about a few of them. Ed, I don't know if you want to start with one or two of the people that
Gee, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of categories, to stay on the category level. I mean, we've got sort of categories of, these we won't give away because they're kind of surprises. These are sort of like, Easter eggs for the program itself. But there's kind of the who'd have thunk it category, like she's from Quincy, oh my gosh, there are a few of those, but also, people that are much more closely tied to Quincy. Obviously, we have people from, I think we're probably going to touch on, in fact, I'm pretty sure, from the very earliest days of settlement. Anne Hutchinson is a really significant woman in colonial Massachusetts, and indeed all of colonial America, who has very definite ties to our community. And moving up, besides Abigail, we have generations in the Quincy family that are of significance for their time. And then when we get into the later 1800s into the late 19th century, we have a number of people. I'm not sure who exactly of that group we're necessarily going to highlight, but Mary Parker Follett, Mary, right? Mary Dewson?
Mary Dewson, yes.
Mary Dewson, Mary Dewson wound up being actually, fairly prominent in the New Deal in the 1930s. And then just, local stuff. We thought there's been kind of an archaeological process here of finding people. In 2015, we thought we had the earliest woman elected official in Quincy, and over the next 3 years, we found two even earlier people. So we may talk a little bit about that. And then obviously the other two people that I think everybody knows as women from Quincy, or at least maybe less so for the younger generation now, but the two are two actress stars of Ruth Gordon and Lee Remick. So we will definitely be paying attention to them. But Alexandra may be able to fill in a little bit more on who else might be on the list of people to really kind of zero in on.
Yeah, no, for me, it's definitely, I'm very interested in looking at some of the, and from the era, sort of the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, such as Mary Parker Follett, who was an advisor to President Theodore Roosevelt for a while, and wrote books about managerial styles, and so was very influential there. And Mary Dewson as well, like Ed said, she was influential in the New Deal programs. There seems to be a sort of a interesting group of sort of unrelated women where we don't know if they knew each other or if they were friends or anything, but they sort of organically all were born and grew up here in Quincy and then went off and did remarkable things with their lives. And so you have a fairly large number of them, and we're discovering more all the time. So that's definitely a group that we want to talk about a bit more.
Seems like you have a very long and interesting list covering all sorts of areas of interest, which seems really fascinating to me. Yeah. I'm not a Massachusetts born and raised resident, so I always find this stuff so fascinating. I love history.
We have a lot of history here.
So for people who are thinking about coming to the program, what can they expect from the event?
So first of all, definitely getting to know some people that they might not have, know that much about, and hopefully learning about some new people entirely. Hopefully people will hear about at least one new individual that they hadn't heard about yet. So that's kind of the start of the process of growing local awareness for, women's history in their local community. And then the second thing that we do want to, touch upon and highlight is that this is ongoing research for us. This is the start of telling this story for Quincy, and it's going to take a lot more work and it's going to take a lot more time. Mm-hmm. This is not the finished product of the research that we're doing. So this is kind of just introducing people to it, and then hopefully getting them aware of the work that we're doing currently, and maybe garnering some interest in that.
I know that we've kind of all been struggling with COVID to kind of promote some of our resources. What resources do you currently have that are available to access maybe digitally or remotely for people during the COVID times when they can't necessarily get over to the Historical Society?
So we are closed currently during the pandemic. So our library and our archives are not available even to us to an extent at this point, which is very difficult for doing our work. But we do have our three primary sources of online stuff is our website, so quincyhistory.org, and then our Facebook page, so you can look us up at Quincy Historical Society and Museum. And then finally, our newest addition to our sort of media content and our digital archives is our blog, which is found at quincyhistory.org/blog. And it's the Quincy History blog. So that's very new. That was something that we premiered over the summer. And it's been great, honestly. Like it's allowed us to tell a lot of stories that we would not have been able to tell otherwise. So that's a fantastic addition.
Yeah. And also, in addition to the programs that we do with you folks, we have started in recent months, we've started to do some online programs of our own, always at a time that will not conflict with something interesting going on at the library. But we've done two so far. We will probably do one probably a couple of weeks ahead of the one we're doing for you. We're kind of doing a little bit of a World War II, because we missed the World War II 75th anniversary with all the pandemic stuff, and we're doing a little bit of a mini catch-up. We've done one program, and we're going to do another kind of World War II themed program in early March, date to be determined. But then we'll continue those as we continue to hopefully collaborate with you people as well, until such time as we can all do this in person. And maybe beyond, because there's an advantage to these kind of programs too, we're discovering.
Yeah, we're with you on that. We've realized that we're able to reach entirely new audiences doing virtual programming. Yeah. Well, I want to take a moment to just thank you both so much for coming and joining me today to talk about the program. Again, we are so happy to be working again with the Quincy Historical Society, and thankful to Ed Fitzgerald, the Executive Director, and Alexandra Elliott, Curator over at the Quincy Historical Society. And please join us for our program on March 22nd at 7 p.m. Beyond Abigail Adams, Notable Quincy Women. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much as well. Looking forward to it.